Barbara Wold is with us today. I am very happy to have her here and a little disappointed I haven't been able to spend a little bit more time with her. She has been, she's been a wonderful national and international speaker in business and retail and tourism. She's owned her own business. She's been a business consultant for years. I first met her through, and I can't remember if it was the National Main Street Association or the International Downtown Association, and I know she's done a lot of consulting with the International Council of Shopping Centers. So she's got a lot of wide variety of experience both in the shopping center realm and in the downtown Main Street realm. And she works with businesses all across the world, large businesses, small businesses. She was here in Montana as the keynote guest for the Montana Economic Developers Association. They had their state conference this week in Great Falls. And Marcy Allen from Bread was kind enough to bring her down to Missoula from Great Falls. We've had good turnout yesterday for our workshops, and I'm really glad that you took the time to be here today for what I think is going to be a very important presentation. So please help me welcoming Barbara Wold.
Thank you. Oops. Can you grab this for me? Those of you that didn't experience me yesterday, I've had hip and knee replacement recently, and I'm finally off of a cane. So I don't want to fall. You'd have to pick me up if I did. And it wouldn't be pretty, I'm sure. My hammer toes are my next surgery, so excuse the casual shoes. I'll tell you, when you get to this age, everything starts going. Customers from hell. Now, you thought you were the only one that got them, right? Everybody. This is from a Malaysian newspaper. Everybody has customers from hell. All right, what is this article about? Barney's Beautiful Bowls. Every bowl is green with orange polka dots, right? Mm-hmm. Every bowl is exactly the same. But a woman comes into Barney's shop, and she thinks that that bowl up there on the shelf is just a little bit better. So Barney gets out his ladder and he climbs up and he grabs the bowl. He brings it down, he presents it to her. She approves. He wraps it carefully and sends her off on her way. Now, he may laugh after she leaves that every single bowl was exactly the same. But to her, it was all about the experience, wasn't it? Yes. Is the business world changing? Has it changed? What has changed in the business world? Everything. Okay. Give me an example. Social media. You're going to have to speak up because we've got some competition there.
Social media.
Social media, yes. The internet.
The customers.
The customers have changed. Yes, the customers definitely changed. Are they flipping through the yellow pages any longer? Not at all. Not at all. In fact, when I was in Great Falls, underneath the phone was a phone book. And I thought, I haven't seen a phone book in years. What else has changed? Great Falls.
Competition.
Competition, yes. Major competition in the marketplace. I'm sorry, I'm hooked up with two different mics here because we're being taped as well. Is that too loud? Was it better the other way? No. Okay. Way to go. All right, competition. You look at the marketplace and how it's changed today. Yes, and brick and mortar has the competition then of the internet, and you can buy anything on the internet. You don't even have to get out of your pajamas any longer. If I explode, I'll tell you, I certainly couldn't get through security at the airport like this. Okay, so the competition and an abundance of competition. All right, how else has the world changed when it comes to business? What about businesses failing? What type of businesses are failing? Last week I told you yesterday that I worked in Seattle with travel agents. What happened to that industry? You can buy a ticket online. So how they have to change their marketing plan is now that they are travel planners, vacation planners, not just travel agents. So it's completely different. What other businesses are failing today? Video. I used to speak all the time for the photo marketing convention. What about photo stores? Yes.
Coffee shops.
Coffee shops?
Coffee.
Coffee shops. All right, I was going to say coffee shops are growing.
No.
Copy.
C-O-P-Y.
Copy shops, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, half the conventions that I speak at, they don't want paper handouts. Everything's done electronically over the internet. And if somebody attends a convention, they want to print out the handout, they can do that themselves. What other businesses are failing? What about stationery stores? Yes. People don't even send notes anymore. I always send handwritten notes, and you will get a handwritten note, Mimi, because I always send handwritten notes. I'll send an email note as well, because that will go out immediately. But then I will put in the mail a note, because people don't do that any longer. I had, when I was in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, a gal that sat in my room, and she was a franchisee for send out cards. Anybody heard of send out cards? Whoops. Sorry. Touch my microphone. Send out cards is a franchise where if I wanted to send you a thank you note, I can do it on my computer. It will print out a card in my printer, and I will send it to you. And I don't have to handwrite it because it's going to look like my writing. And she said, Barbara, this is going to be fabulous for you. I want you as one of my clients. She says, it'll be wonderful. You won't have to write those handwritten notes any longer. It'll just be computer generated, and your customers will never know. I said, oh, yes, they will. You can tell if something's computer generated. And she couldn't understand why I wouldn't buy into this concept. All right, so stationery stores are going by the wayside, unfortunately. What other businesses? Butcher shops. You're all aware that Target has pulled out their 133 stores in Canada. Why? Because they did not study the Canadian consumer. The Canadian consumer still wants to go to the butcher shop, the bakery shop. They still want to shop like Europeans. They didn't want everything under one roof at all. Target pulled out, think of the cost, 133 stores in 3 years. They've only been there for 3 years, and they're gone already. So what else?
Private practice physicians.
Private practice physicians.
I think probably box stores more generally.
Box stores or what?
Just like Sears, for example.
Yeah, Sears is having problems, yes.
Just department stores.
That's what I mean.
Department stores. Well, when I was growing up, a department store had a notions department. It had, and now all it is clothing, really, and house goods. That's it. It's not really a department store anymore. They're having more fun over there than we are, aren't they? Okay. I'm going to have you continue thinking about that. How else has the business world changed?
Employees want to work from home.
Employees want to work from home, yes. And actually it's beneficial for some employers.
Education has changed.
Education has changed. You've got a younger workforce now. They think completely differently. They don't have the ethics we have. That's the difference.
Cheryl's a teacher. She's a college professor here in town.
Okay.
Online learning.
Online learning. How is that going? Because I was speaking to some, was it you, Marcy, that was telling me about someone that was studying online? No, maybe not. It was somebody during this trip, and their child left high school and was finishing the work online, and how difficult it was because you don't have the other people around you, and it's a very lonely experience.
And you have to be self-motivated, so there's nobody, you don't come to class and the teacher says, pass it.
Yeah, no, it would be completely different, yes. Yes. What else is different in the business world?
Transient workforce.
Transient workforce.
They'll work somewhere for 20 or 30 years.
Yes.
Expectations and everything happen now.
Expectations, instant gratification. Yes, exactly. They want it now, especially these younger people. You know, they don't want to wait. You look at Amazon, you know, trying to fine-tune this same-day delivery, and they're doing it in New York and Los Angeles right now. You know, and you also, I'm sure, if any of you watched 60 Minutes, about a year ago, Jeff Bezos was on about with his drones. Well, UPS has been talking about that for years. So if that gets passed, we're going to be delivering things by drones. There is, in one of the European countries, I read an article recently about a gentleman that had a huge business and people had wanted things same-day delivery. He would wrap it up, ring it up, and put it in a cab and send it off to the customer. I mean, we all want things instantly now. You know, when you look at Amazon, are any of you in the Amazon Prime Club? Okay. You pay a hefty price. What is it, $100 a year, now $79, whatever it is now. But you get it within a couple days. And that has just, grown Amazon dramatically. Just something as simple as that.
You know, something else that has changed is the work ethic. These kids do not want to work. They, you know, it's all, give me my paycheck and I'll stand around all week, you know what I mean?
I notice that everywhere I go. They're standing there looking at their phones the entire time, no matter what. The officer in the Denver airport, when I left on Monday, the officer, if you go through security, he's at the elevator to go down to the train. You know, doesn't even look at me when I pass. He's looking at his phone. And I see that everywhere. In fact, it was Brett Dunny with the Economic Development in Great Falls. He was the one that hired me for that conference. And he's just gone away, just came back from 2-week vacation with his wife in Hawaii. Their honeymoon, they're celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary, but they'd never had a honeymoon. He did not take any of his electronics with him at all. He just disconnected. That's what we've got to do today. Obviously, it's an award ceremony or something over there. All right, here's an article about Starbucks. So we'll get back to this. So keep the thoughts in your head. Because I notice that all the time. Which businesses are just not going to make it any longer when I drive through a downtown or Main Street area or a core of a city. You want it your way. Americans have become so demanding that they demand and they get. Consider this. Starbucks offers more than 19,000 ways to order a cup of coffee. Okay. Who makes up the concoctions?
The consumers.
The consumer.
I mean, consumers can submit recipes.
Huh?
Consumers can even submit recipes to stuff.
All right. Consumers can submit recipes to Starbucks. The employees, the baristas, and corporate. Yes. All right. 19,000 ways to serve a cup of coffee. And I drink mine black. Consider this. This article was written in March of '04. How many, now it's drink combinations, are there at Starbucks? Any guesses? 5,000? 35,000. Over 87,000. Drink combinations. A few years ago, remember when Starbucks closed all of its stores at night so the baristas could be trained and retrained? And everybody in the industry is going, oh, that is the stupidest thing ever. My goodness, I can't believe they do that. Think of the revenue they lost. Think of the marketing opportunity. I mean, they were what? In every single publication, on the news, everything. Yes, that was the best move they ever made. Well, here I was in New Hampshire, and I was working in the room at a presentation I was going to do at that time, and this one young lady, I introduced myself, and I said, now what type of business do you have? And she said, well, I have a women's apparel store. And I said, did you see what Starbucks did this week? She goes, well, why would I pay any attention to Starbucks? She said, I don't even drink coffee. And I'm thinking, you're in the business world. What was the first thing I said yesterday in every one of my presentations? Take off those blinders. Yes, you've got to take off your blinders and be aware of what's going on around you. You can learn from any business, and that is exactly what you said when I was walking around here today at lunch. Exactly. That you got ideas yesterday that you can tweak so they will work for you. Where did Starbucks start? Where's their first store? Seattle, okay. Seattle, cold, damp, rainy. Yes, hot coffee did very, very well. Second location, Chicago. Windy, cold, snowy, hot coffee did very well. Third location, 3rd Street Promenade, Santa Monica, California. Hot August afternoon. That hot coffee's just flying out the door, right? No, it's not. Ann Ewing, their manager, everybody was asking for cold drinks, so she had the initiative to go home, grab her blender, stop and get some ice, and she made the first Frappuccino. And look where that's gone today. She was able to think on her feet. She had the ability. Starbucks has done things poorly, and they've done things very, very well. Remember when Starbucks said they were never going to close a location? Well, if you have a location that is not performing, I mean, you'd be stupid not to close it. So now they're closing locations. Plus, they put some too close to each other. But then they decided, okay, you know, our baristas work a little too hard. All right, we're going to make it easy for them. We're going to ship them the coffee already ground, so they don't have to grind it, and we're going to seal it in bags so that that aroma just doesn't leak out. Okay, what did they take away? They took away the romance, they took away the theater. Because you go into a Starbucks for the aroma, don't you? Same thing you go to your local coffee shop for, the aroma. And they realized they made a mistake, so now they are sending the beans, and the baristas are grinding them themselves because they realized they made a mistake. So, and also, they realized that their employees were robots. So they're going back to their startup mode so that everybody can think on their feet, giving them the ability to do that. So, you know, with somebody as successful as Starbucks, you know, they made mistakes, but they've corrected their mistakes. They're paying attention to what their population wants, what their customers want, what their communities want. Now, this is an article I picked up recently in the LA Times. It's about a coffee store called, what is it called again? Sweet Things. And this little coffee store called Sweet Things, where do you think it opened up? In Seattle. Now, if you were going to open up a single coffee store, would you open it in Seattle? No. You've got Seattle's Best, you have Starbucks, you've got Caribou Coffee is also from Seattle. All right, but this store is a little bit different because this store, the baristas are scantily clad. They have Tube Top Tuesdays, Wet T-shirt Wednesdays. I can't even read the names of the drinks or Linda will throw me out of here. But they knew they were different so they could stand up in that market. In the article, they interview a truck driver. He said, oh, I just had a hankering for a cup of coffee. Yeah, right. You're right. Matt, I'll give you the address later, okay?
You know, we had a little coffee stand that started doing that. They didn't last very long, but all their gals had to wear lingerie.
Really? Here in Missoula?
It was right on Russell Street. And yeah, it was like that. What it was, yeah, on the street.
Right, a little kiosk.
But the police kept shutting it down. But I talked to a couple of y'all really nice-looking young women that went to apply for jobs, and they said, "You're not pretty enough. But they
Well, that's discrimination. You can't do that. That's discrimination.
don't, I don't. But they wore lingerie.
Well, one of the newest categories in retail restaurants today are breastrants.
Oh, topless?
No. Almost. No, that's, I don't even know if you have anything like this here. You've got Twin Peaks is one chain. Well, you're all familiar with Hooters. Hooters is having its problems because now it has all sorts of competition. You have the Tilted Kilt. Have you heard of any of these? And the girls wear a bra, but I mean it's like a camisole type bra, and they're pretty covered up. I mean, and then they wear little short shorts and everything. Or in Tilted Kilt, they wear little kilts. But you know, I mean, it's like Hooters, but they're called breastrants, and it's a whole category now because it's a big thing. Is there anything like that here? No. You have Hooters. Hooters, though, because of all the competition, you know, it's no big thing anymore, and so they're trying to reformulate, you know, the look of their staff and everything. Excuse me, trying to reformulate, you know, the uniforms just to make it a little more exciting. It's tired. It's a tired concept. No, so it's interesting what's all going on today in retail and in the business world. One of my topics in Great Falls was where these downtowns have to go and what type of strategies do they need before they can even start the revitalization process. And the first step they needed to take, I told them, was to basically to have a vibrant downtown area. They have to have the vibrant core with a vibrant business district that is exciting, first of all. Before they need to start pulling people into their downtown core before they even think of revitalization, before they even think of their public spaces. Well, you've got a vibrant downtown. You've got a fabulous public space. I mean, this park here next to the river is wonderful. And so obviously you've done a very, very good job. But so many of them, they don't know where to start. They haven't figured out the strategies yet, and they haven't thought about the tourists. And you know, with you're starting your tourist season, and with the graduation at the university, that's what you need to think about. And yesterday I told you all that sat in my sessions, you are all ambassadors. You're ambassadors for Missoula.
She's called the downtown ambassador.
Because that's what you have to, you need to sit down sometime. You just think to yourself, but all the things Missoula has to offer, to be able to share those things with any visitor that comes to town. I told you yesterday about the experience when I was in Great Falls, the little shuttle guy, I said, okay, my first time to Great Falls, what do I see? And he goes, I like to fish. And I'm thinking, you know, he could have told me everything about Great Falls and the ride from the airport. But
Everything about Great
oh,
Falls.
Yeah, then in about 30 seconds, he could have told you everything about it.
well, and then I asked him, I said, okay, Great Falls, because of the name, I assume there are falls here. He goes, not anymore, it's dams now. You know, those were his answers. So.
They do have a good museum, though.
Charlie was.
Several, yes, they do have.
Yeah, but then I love to go to museums and learn about the area. My first trip to Dubai, in Dubai, I don't even go outside anymore. I mean, it's 115 degrees. You know, I go run to the cab and then run in the convention center, and that's about it. But the first time I went, I did go to the museum because I wanted to learn about the Bedouin tribes and how basically Dubai started, about its history. And Dubai started out, it was they don't have oil. Dubai has no oil. Abu Dhabi has the oil. And it started out as a pearling industry, in the pearling industry. But then in the 30s, when cultured pearls came out, that market fell through. So that's why they went into the tourism industry. But Dubai doesn't have money anymore. The royal family has run out of money. All of the projects that would go 24, I've been to Dubai 10 times now, and more than that, 12. And all of the projects, the building goes on in the city, it used to 24 hours a day. Not any longer. A lot of those plans have just been wiped off the map. They were going to do Dubai Land. Anybody heard of Dubai Land? Yeah, they were going to do Dubai Land. That's on the back burner right now, which that was going to be a combination of Disneyland, Las Vegas, and everything else in between. But there's nothing happening there right now. Where you go to Abu Dhabi, they have taken an island in Abu Dhabi that had been all oil rigs, and there's no more oil in that spot. So they've taken down the oil rigs, they've cleaned up the brownfields, and now they're putting a museum campus there. There's going to be a Louvre, a Guggenheim, a Smithsonian, and so on. It's going to be absolutely fabulous. That's where all the action is right now. So it's interesting what's going on there. But that's the only place I want to go in the Middle East right now. Wouldn't go anywhere else. All right, I'm sitting in my hotel room, and I have the news on, and I'm reading the newspaper. And it says, U.S. Airways raises its wine standards. I go, oh, how lovely. I love wine, isn't that nice? They've partnered with a vineyard up in Napa, and it shows pictures of the woman swirling the wine, looking at the clarity and everything else, and making notes. And I thought, great. Well, as I'm reading this, on the news, they are announcing the airline with the worst baggage record. Which do you think it was? U.S. Airways. I'm thinking, well, don't they care about their customers' luggage? Well, then, here I was, right after reading that, I was in Miami. And in Miami, I was speaking to every airline's customer service head, the head of customer service. So I had American Airlines, Delta, United, Air France, Etihad, Emirates, Air Afrique. They were all there. And so I'm having fun with them and everything, and so I used that article as an example. And I have a gentleman come to me afterwards when I was done. He said, Barbara, may I have a cup of coffee with you? I said, I would love that. He hands me his business card. It's U.S. Airways. I thought, shoot, why did I use that article? He said, you know what? That article woke us up. We are working now on getting the best baggage system ever. He said, we didn't realize, get this, we didn't realize how important a customer's luggage was. With all the flying I do, my luggage has been misplaced only several times. That's it. One time, and I'll tell you this because this is funny, I was going to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, working with the city and their downtown association. And so I was flying into Minneapolis, and then they had a driver to take me to Eau Claire. Well, the flights were mixed up somehow, and it really wasn't Delta's fault, but they misplaced my luggage. But they gave me a little package. I had a t-shirt, and I had some toothpaste and everything, and that's all I had. So I get to the hotel. And it's the only hotel in the downtown core, so this is why they put me there. And it's an old Ramada. And little did I know that it had been up for sale for 7 years. Okay, so you can tell it wasn't in the best condition. So I go up to I'd say to the young lady at the front desk, I said, hopefully my reservation's for a non-smoking room. She says, oh yes, we're all non-smoking. Fine, go up to my room, well, it smelled awful. I came back down, I said, somebody's been smoking in that room. She goes, people don't listen to the instructions here. I'm thinking, so she said, let me give you another room. So I go up, the other room is not smoky, but this hotel had been a smoking hotel. And remember, it was for sale for 7 years, so obviously they haven't replaced the furniture. In my sofa, I had burn holes all over it from cigarettes. All right, I didn't even have a robe to put on to sit down. So now I have all the towels from the bathroom all over the sofa so I can sit down, because all I have was my little t-shirt, And now I have a glass of wine in a styrofoam cup, sitting there in my t-shirt on the sofa with all the towels. And I'm thinking, and people think my life is so glamorous.
Did you go back after that trip?
No, I haven't been to Eau Claire since. Or do I want to? No, hopefully, and somebody told me the other day they were from Eau Claire, and I was at some conference, and they said that the hotel has sold, so obviously, hopefully, something happens. But Eau Claire was very, very interesting. Very interesting. I get out of the cab, I was doing a keynote at a restaurant at a dinner, and the cab driver lets me out right where there's a big pile of snow, and I had to climb over it. I tell you, life is not as glamorous on the road as you think, but it is fun. As I mentioned, with Starbucks, now they're letting their people think on their feet. This is Sears' big spiel years ago. You know, they're going to give people the ability to think on their feet and make decisions. All right, so they don't, if the customer comes maybe with an exchange or return or something else, they don't have to go to another employee or manager. They can make the decision themselves, okay, which is very, very important. But they're trained in certain, you know, they're trained how to do their job. Well, here I was on Air India, and I was on my way into Mumbai, and the stewards and stewardesses are trained to give everybody a hot towel before their meal and a hot towel after their meal. So we had our hot towel, we had our dinner, and now we were getting our second hot towel. Well, the man next to me decided to put his head back and go to sleep. Didn't make any difference. That stewardess was trained to give him his hot towel. So she basically was crawling over me, "Sir, your hot towel, your hot towel." Well, shouldn't she have been able to read that he didn't really want a hot towel? No, but she was trained that way. So right now, the business world is you've got to break the rules. You've got to be able to let your employees think on their feet and make their own decisions.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, of course, anytime.
How long has Starbucks been in business?
Does anybody know?
30 years?
Is it that long?
Topher will look it up for you.
Yeah.
Because
Where are you?
you know, one thing that's amazing about them is they do change quickly. When they see something's not working, they're not afraid to correct it. And so many companies get stuck in a rut, and it must be management that just, oh, we've always done it that way.
You know what? That's what happens, and that's unfortunate with big boxes.
Yeah.
Big boxes, big chains, they don't have the ability to change. I remember years ago when I did so much work with the shopping center industry, and I was in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I had the manager of the Gap cry to me at lunch. We had gone to lunch together. She was crying because the Gap didn't realize that in Shreveport, Louisiana, you didn't need 3 rounders of jackets. And she said they ship the same merchandise to every single store. Doesn't make any difference. Now, I mean, Macy's now says that they've changed and that they're doing, you know, different product mix and merchandise mix depending upon the area of the country. Which, I mean, that just seems so logical. I mean, to me, it's a little more work, obviously, but if it's going to make you profitable.
You'll see that in Dillard's here in Missoula. We get all this seaside stuff. We don't have an ocean, you know. We don't have beach houses. And they've got all these, every year they have a new line of seaside stuff, you know. And every year it goes on sale because nobody buys it, you know. It's
Perfect example.
Yeah, it must be their buyers. I don't know.
Well, and I don't know if they ship the same merchandise to every single store.
They must, yeah.
I mean, they've done very well in some markets because they are freestanding. They're not in the mall. And that was their plan. And so it's proven to be very, very good for them. Somebody can pull up, go in, shop, and run out. And so that's where their coupon system, I mean, is, you know, you'd be stupid if you bought anything at full price there.
Yeah.
Starbucks is 44.
44 years?
71.
71, huh? Thank you very much. Keep that out in case we need other information. Partnerships between people, between companies, with customers, and with suppliers. If you do that, everybody creates greater value for all concerned. Years ago, I was asked to speak, when I still had my retail business, asked to speak at the LA Merchandise Mart. And this is the first seminar they had ever done at the Merchandise Mart. And I was asked to go in and to talk to everybody because one thing that I noticed and that they noticed, and I was a very powerful retailer there, that everybody knew me, but on the buses, the shuttle buses back and forth, nobody would talk to anybody. They'd just sit there like this. And I'm thinking, Well, today we're in a world we've got to share ideas, but back then, no. So I got up to do a seminar on basically sharing ideas, and I had shoulder pads, but they weren't the kind you attach, and I had a silk jacket on, and I go to start, and I go to push up my sleeves, and I notice my shoulder pads are right here. You know, here this was 40 years ago, and I still remember that. Told you Alzheimer's hasn't kicked in yet. But today, it's sharing information. And at least now with the different gift shows, trade shows, and apparel shows and everything, when you have all independent merchants, they do share information. Maybe not with another retailer in town, but with somebody that lives in another city, away from them. And that's the key to business today. But my belief is, in this changing business world, is to create partnerships. And I'm going to give you some examples. And I was on Alaska Airlines, and this was the little cocktail napkin. And it has their credit card information on the back. Is that pretty typical? Say yes. It's very typical. Because they want you to use one of their credit cards. On the way back, we had a P.F. Chang's China Bistro napkin. And I said to the steward, I said, why do we have this napkin? He said, we try and cross-promote and partner with everybody we can. And I've thought so many, many times, with all the airlines that I'm on, only once have I ever received a cocktail napkin on a plane that had hotel information on it. Marketing piece from a hotel, and it was a Hampton Inn. And I don't remember what airline I was on. I fly mainly Delta, and they have Coke products, so the napkin's an always Coke napkin. And I'm thinking, why not market with somebody, to partner with somebody else, and have a different napkin on the plane? You know, to me, it's a lost opportunity. Procter & Gamble have partnered with Google. Procter & Gamble is very, very big in the print ad industry. Google's very big in the online ad industry. So what they do for a month at a time, they take 50 employees, Google sends them over to P&G, and the same thing. Because that way then they're going to learn new techniques that they can bring into their business. Isn't that an interesting partnership? I think that's a wonderful partnership. It's down in Ybor City. I told you yesterday about Ybor City. Ybor City is right outside of Tampa. It is where the Cuban cigar makers came in 1900. All right, the main drag is 7th Avenue. It's all brick. And I was there speaking for the city, and then the Chamber of Commerce had a luncheon. And I was invited to go to the luncheon. Well, there was a woman sitting next to me, and we started chatting, and she said, Barbara, I own a vintage clothing store. And she said, see that lady over there at that table with the red hair? I won't even talk to her. I said, why not? She said, because she has a vintage clothing store too. I said, well, there is no way you could have the same merchandise at all. It's a vintage clothing store. She said, yes, she's my competition. I said, she's not. Got them both together, got them both talking after the lunch. They then created a business card with one vintage clothing store on one side, the other one on the other side. They send their staff back and forth during slow times to see what each store has and gotten a new. It has been a great marriage. And here they are, the same exact business. All right, here's an example of two opposite businesses. I was in Marion, Indiana, and it was the Chamber of Commerce Customer Service little conference. And you've all been to conferences like this. Around the room, they had tables. So the bank had a table, you know, the senior home had a table, and so on. And I was then to close the conference, and before I even started, I said, before any of you leave today, I want you to take another swing around the room and see if you could partner with one of those people that had the tables around the room. And I said, I had the pleasure of sitting with Pam and Mark at lunch, and Pam and Mark have a children's bookstore. And I said, Pam and Mark, have you ever thought about partnering with Northwood Manor, the senior home? Pam goes, Barbara, it's a children's bookstore. I said, yes. And do you know that every one of those seniors, his grandchildren, they since then have created a program. They go in every 2 weeks. They have the list of all the grandchildren for everybody, the age, and they can send out for a birthday or a holiday age-appropriate book, put it in a manila envelope, put a few stickers on it, and send it off. What a partnership. They never would have thought about that. St. Charles, Missouri. Anybody been to St. Charles? No. St. Charles is right outside of St. Louis Airport, about 15 minutes away. A very historic, 6 blocks long, 7 blocks long, with a foundry at the end that they've turned into artist studios. It's absolutely fabulous. The bookstore is in an old slave quarter. I mean, it's just great. Well, what Frank Swan said he's done, he said, Barbara, I have a partnership. He said, I make sure that my employees don't hang over a customer because I have a fine jewelry store, and I don't want them to intimidate the customer. So he said, I have them give the customer a coupon for a pastry and a cold or hot drink down at the little cupcake shop. That way then I remove them from the store and they can go down and discuss it. He said, we get probably 80% back that make the purchase. And I thought, that is great. You know, and so that's another type of a partnership. So he's partnered with the cupcake store. Brookline, Massachusetts. There's a little independent toy store there called the Toy Box. And I was visiting Brookline, and she said, Barbara, she said, I have major competition. She said, there are 4 other independent toy store dealers here in Brookline, Mass. And she said, what do I do? I said, they're not your competition. I said, your competition is Toys R Us. That's your competition. And I got her to realize how important it was to form a partnership between these 5 independent dealers so they could go to the toy show together, they could buy larger quantities and get a greater discount. Somebody comes into one of their stores and asks for something, they don't have it, they can call one of the other stores and see where they can get it. Yeah, so that's been a great partnership. That's another type of a partnership. Charleston, West Virginia. There are 3 restaurants that have partnered on Washington Avenue. Tricky Fish, Bluegrass Kitchen, and Fruitcake. They have partnered. They do a newsletter together. They do promotions together. They are completely different type restaurants. Fruitcake is basically a bakery. Tricky Fish, you can figure that out, and Bluegrass Kitchen. But what they want to do with their partnership is to get customers, residents, used to coming to Washington Avenue to eat. That's the reason for their partnership. Has it worked? Yes, it definitely has. Then you've got up in San Francisco, Coffee Primo. Coffee Primo has 5 locations. They've always been very successful. It's an upper scale coffee shop. But they wanted to partner with Charlotte Albright. Charlotte Albright owns Sweet Charlotte's. She sells truffles. And so now you go into Coffee Primo, you order a cappuccino, you will get a little truffle to go along with it. You go into Sweet Charlotte's and order some truffles to go. They will give you a special little package of coffee just for you from Primo. All right, makes sense? Yes. It has worked so well that now they're planning on opening locations together. So there are all types of partnerships that work. Can any of you think of a partnership that you have seen that works?
I think one of my favorites is we have a number of retailers, 6 or 8 of them, that do a collective sale together.
Yes.
So they do it in a restaurant, and they all bring, sort of that inventory that they want to get rid of, and they discount it, and they share marketing and share spinning
That was
space.
Amy, yes, because Amy was telling me that yesterday at lunch. What is Amy's store's name again?
Betty's Divine.
Betty's Divine. That they have then done. Have you gone to a sale? Yes. But that is a wonderful partnership. So things like that do work. Anybody else see one?
I had a boutique at one point, and I would send my good clients, when I would send them handwritten thank you you notes, I always bought Bernice's Bakery gift cards for them.
Gift cards, yes. Anybody else see a partnership that works?
We see lots of restaurants doing food pairings with, breweries and wineries and, going to the market and, buying fresh vegetables and fruits and showcasing that farm to
Okay.
table programming.
Well, look at the convenience stores and how they have changed. Your gas stations now have Subways.
Yes.
McDonald's. That never happened 10 years ago.
No, and Subway, very interesting. I was in India at a conference, and the representative from Subway was there. And Subway is the only fast food restaurant that can open in any size space, and which is very interesting. And because if they do a lot of things on military bases as well, where they only have so much space, and they have to confine then their working, counters and everything else to that space, and they can do it. And this is why Subway has been so successful, and why it has been, it has more locations than McDonald's do. Started by one man with an idea. And are they everywhere in the world? Everywhere. Everywhere.
I think the Top Hat is a great example of partnerships where they have the Big Sky Film Festival that does independent doc films, and they do showings like on a Monday or Tuesday night when it's slow, and so they'll show a film in the bar, they'll pack the place in partnership with Big Sky.
Or they'll partner with the ZAC and have the girls rock band camp come and perform. Or even the Holiday Inn, the precursor to the bikes, was partnering with a bike store to bring the bikes over and having, bikes available for hotel guests.
Okay. What other partnerships have you seen? See, that's why I didn't have a sandwich first.
So, go ahead.
Hank Green, who does production here, he runs a YouTube channel called The SciShow and several others, and he partnered with Google because they do little sort of science questions on the SciShow, and so it's like a little 5 minutes, like why is the sky blue, answering sort of regular questions, and they partnered with Google to answer the top like 10 questions, scientific questions, and did a whole showcase around it.
There's a new tap room in town called Dram Shop, and they have the pub menu from the two restaurants that are on the same block as them.
Oh,
Yeah.
so they don't make the food?
No,
They get the other
you
restaurants.
can order it, and then they'll bring it from the restaurant down the block.
Fabulous partnership. That is wonderful. Anybody else? I had said yesterday that over the internet I read last week that, that focus groups are out. Well, it's so important to talk to your customer, whether you do a focus group or not, or just talk to them one-on-one. Mike is the CEO of Pizza Hut. And what Mike does every single Friday, he takes a half an hour out of his lunch and he calls customers in the database that order a lot of pizzas. And so one Friday, made a first phone call, and the first thing he said to the customer they answered the phone, he said, I see that you order a lot of pizzas from us. I want to thank you for being a good customer. Hopefully we're treating you the way you'd like to be treated. And so the next call, he tried to call a woman who lived right outside of Dallas, and he could tell by the zip code that it wasn't a very nice area, but didn't have her, he couldn't get her on the phone, rather. So he tried the next week again, he tried the next week again. Finally he got her on the phone, and he said, I see that you order a lot of pizzas. He said, I'm Mike, CEO of Pizza Hut. She goes, oh yeah, sure. He goes, no, I really am. And he said, I want to thank you for being a good customer. And she said, yes. She said, we are a good customer, and I'll tell you why. She said, I am a single mother. I have 5 children. I want to prove to my children that I'm not going to go on disability. I'm not going to go on public assistance. She said, I want them to grow up with good ethics. So she said, during the day I work in a hotel and I change bed. She said, at night sometimes I work in a little restaurant, and on the weekends I clean homes for people. She said, my children would like me home more, but unfortunately I have 3 jobs. But my oldest son, if all the other children want pizza, he's able to order it for them. And she said, that's why we order a lot of pizza. He said, I want to thank you. She goes, oh, I know, for being a good customer. He goes, no, I want to thank you for being a good mother. And every time I tell that story, I always get a little lump in my throat because it's true. And I have asked in my travels if the DMs and the managers of Pizza Huts worldwide call customers and follow up, and they do. So something like that is so very important. And when you had said that you write thank you notes to you had written thank you notes to your good customers and given them some sort of a gift card. Very important today. One of my favorite quotes is, whoever learns faster from the most brains wins. So it's not looking at your phone. It's taking time to talk to somebody. And too many times businesses don't have focus groups. They don't sit around with their customers. Remember I told you about the Westin Hotel yesterday? How instead of just filling out a form, had a form for their guests to fill out, they actually sat them down and fed them and listened to them. So it's knowing your customer and talking to them. I was in Lee Summit, Missouri, and I was doing a program for all of the downtown, and I had a woman come up to me because we were talking about newsletters. And she said, Barbara, I want to give you one of our newsletters. And I said, you still do a paper newsletter? She goes, yes, we do. She said, I do electronic newsletter as well, but I do a paper newsletter too because we have an older population and a lot of our customers don't have a computer, and if they do, they won't read a newsletter or anything off a computer. So I want to have something nice to give to them. And one thing that she said that she puts in her newsletter, she said, it's not ads about our products. So this was a day spa. She said, it's not ads about our products. It's about our employees. I have articles about a new employee that came in. I have an article about, one of my employees' husbands just became the soccer coach, and people want to know things like that. They want human interest stories. Things have become so impersonal today, and that's unfortunate, and especially with young people. I was going back to Ybor City again. My plane had gotten in very late. There were some sort of weather conditions or whatever. And so by the time I got to the hotel, it was 11 o'clock at night. And what I loved, I wanted to learn the history of Ybor City because that was my first time there. And I wanted to read about it. And in the room on the desk, there was a book all about the history of Ybor City. So I took the time to read the book before I went to bed, The High Points, because I wanted to find out about it. I love trivia, I love history, and they had given me, it was an old historic Spanish hotel, and they had given me the top floor, the penthouse, and there were drapes all the way around the room, and it took me almost 20 minutes to shut all the drapes around this room. It was a neat room, but on the table, next to the desk, there was a little table about the size of a tray table. And there was a placemat, paper placemat on it, that size. And on the placemat, around the edges, it had all the businesses in town that I should visit. And in the very center, there was a calendar for that month with all the things going on in Ybor City during that month. And I thought, how great. That is the only hotel I have ever been in that has anything like that. Isn't that sad? Is there anything in the rooms here to tell me about what there is to see in Missoula? Was it in that booklet?
We put it in the booklet. We also put the Destination Missoula visitor guide, and we put that in all the guest rooms so people have that, get an overview of events, not just while they're here. but
Fabulous. Fabulous. Yes, because so many times, the hotels and the downtown don't work together. And this is it. I mean, I speak to the tourism industry, and that's the key, is to get all the hotels to go in and to partner with the downtown partnerships and everything else in the community. Then I went on to the Sheraton Hotel in Punta Gorda, Florida. Punta Gorda is on the Gulf side, and that is where Hurricane Charlie hit 10 years ago. And so I was all excited to read about Hurricane Charlie. And because it demolished half the town of Punta Gorda, and they had rebuilt it. And I was there working with the Florida Main Street Association, and that was one of our tours the next day, everything that had been revitalized and refreshed. And so I get to the hotel, I was all excited, I get to my room, and in my room, there's like little slots next to the desk with the room service menu and everything else. It was kind of a neat little setup. And then I get to this one and it says, to do. He said, it says, have a look. Here is something that you will want to know about. And I thought, right, it's all about the history of Punta Gorda. I was all excited and everything, and I opened it up and it's their customer comment card. What a disappointment. So I go down to the front desk and I said, do you have any information about, Hurricane Charlie? She goes, no, we don't. She says, but you know what? The Chamber of Commerce is across the street and it opens at 10. That's been so sad. I mean, with my dress, I love the history of places. Here I was in Nantucket, and the innkeeper, Lisa, as I told you yesterday, had just moved there, and the first thing she says to me is, boy, am I going to miss Tampa. She said, I had a Walmart in Tampa. There's no Walmart there on Nantucket at all. I said, oh, but look at the businesses and the stores that you have and how charming this is. Since then, she has emailed me. She said, Barbara, you know what, I didn't realize how charming it was. She said, I am so excited to be here. She had never been to Nantucket before. She took the job. She couldn't get to Nantucket because of her job. She couldn't leave it. So the innkeepers flew to Tampa to interview her for the job. So she had never even been to Nantucket Island. And when you look at how charming it is, but if hotels would only have information in the room about, about the community, about the downtown in the area, and they don't. They don't, unfortunately. Because that's what I like to know about. And it's telling stories. People love stories. And this is one thing that I spoke to several of you about after I spoke yesterday. I said, the stories we love. And that's it. People do love stories. I was working with a gal. I was in Denver, and speaking at the Denver Merchandise Mart, and after I spoke, she said, Barbara, she said, may we sit down and talk? And I said, of course. And what she did was she made one-of-a-kind clothing, and silk and Asian inspired, and she said, I have 2 books to show you my last year's collection and this year's collection, and she showed them beautiful things, all one-of-a-kind. And I said, where's information in these books? Because these are books she shows to potential customers. Where's information about you? She said, oh, they don't want to know anything about me. I said, yes, they do. They want to know about you. And I said, you need to put information in there. I said, why do you do Asian-inspired clothing? She was not Asian herself. And she said, because my father had a job in China, and we lived over there for 20 years. And I fell in love with Asian-inspired clothing. And I said, that's what you need to put in here, some information about yourself. Since then, she has done that. And that's what customers want to read. Here I was down in Columbus, Mississippi, and one of the stores that I was visiting there on my visit, when I was doing all of these store visits and business visits, was at a little restaurant. It was called Front Door, Back Door. You could come in the front door and there was a restaurant, you could come in the back door and there was a restaurant, and the kitchen was right in the middle. And so I'm sitting down having lunch before I was going to meet with the owner. And then she came over with her manager to sit with me so we could talk. And she said, the manager said to me, Sue, tell Barbara all about yourself. She said, oh, Barbara doesn't want to hear about me. I said, yes, I do. And she said, well, I came here to Mississippi, she said, to run the culinary department at the Mississippi Women's College. Then I decided to open several restaurants, and that's what I've done. She said, tell Barbara the rest. She says, well, I've written 7 cookbooks. And I said, where are your 7 cookbooks? She goes, oh, you mean I should have them out in the restaurant? Of course. People want to know about you. Of course they do. Here I was up in Maine,
And I was going to have lunch with the Main Street director, and we were having lunch in the old grist mill, right on the river. And the first thing I looked for on the menu was information about the grist mill. And on the back of the menu, it had the whole history of that grist mill. And that's what I want to see. So people want stories. They want to know about you. If you're independent or an artist or whatever else. Noreen had in my room a lovely handmade candlestick out of wood. It was from what artist studio? What? Oh, so is it all different artists in there? Yes. What's the name of it?
The artist shop.
Oh, the artist shop. Well, that makes sense. The artist shop. And what he takes wood that basically has died, trees that are have been cut down because of beetles or whatever else. And he turns them into gorgeous things. This is a gorgeous candlestick. And inside, though, where the candle would go was a little paper rolled up. I undid it and read it. It was all about his history, about how he, how he's inspired to create these pieces. And that's what people want, isn't it? Yes. So, can you think of any business that does a good job like that? They tell a story. Is there any business in town that does that?
We need more of that.
Okay.
Well, there's a new barbecue restaurant here, right? Victoria's PIG. He always tells the story of how his in-laws run a barbecue joint in St. Louis that's really popular, and he's always out there greeting customers and telling them stories while they're waiting in line.
Very important. But the story I'm asked all the time, how did you start? How did I start? People want to know. They didn't even know it was a profession. I didn't either until I started. Met a gentleman at a bachelor bed. I had just been divorced. I wasn't bidding on him, but he was a speaker for the financial industry. And he took me under his wing. He said, "What's your expertise?" And I said, "Well, I've had a very successful retail business for 20 years. And he said, "Great." Next thing I know, I'm in Las Vegas for the ICSA convention, and my assistant's pushing me into each booth. "Go ahead, tell them what you do." I didn't even know what I was doing at all. But people want to know all about you. Because when you look at Facebook, I'm only on Facebook with family and a few neighbors. And I only go to Facebook to look at to see what my son's doing that day. I mean, if he calls me, I'm going, "Everything okay? You okay?" Because he doesn't call me. Or my daughter, who lives, a couple miles away, calls me up to 6 times a day. So, but people are communicating completely differently today. And that's a change in the business world. I was at a conference in Oklahoma City, and it was basically a downtown conference, but you had, their state tourism director there and everything else. And after I spoke, a woman came up to me, she says, "Barbara, I've got a tough job." She said, "I am to market and I am to create tourism for my city. The problem is the name." She says, "Hooker, Oklahoma. That's where I'm from." And I said, "Hooker, Oklahoma? I've never heard of that." She goes, "Yep." She goes, "It's not a profession, it's an attitude." And she said, "Our main drag is Maple Avenue." So she said, in my marketing materials, I put, "Come see what Maple has to offer." Cute. So recently, there's been a joint partnership done between a city in Oregon and a city in Scotland. Anybody read about it? The city in Oregon is Boring, Oregon. Now, how would you like to market Boring, Oregon? Pretty tough, wouldn't it be? Yes. And the city in Scotland is Dull, Scotland. And they are doing a partnership marketing-wise. That fun? Yes. How about Cranky Corner? Cranky Corner is in Louisiana. So you're going to market the downtown core. Come on down and get the best customer service in Cranky Corner. What about Hill, Michigan? And I don't make up any of these. I have a whole list I can read. Toadsuck, Arkansas. Topeka, Kansas was trying to come up with a new slogan to try and pull customers in. And so the first one they came up with was, Topeka is a great place to grow. I thought, oh, that's boring. You know, let's change it around. Okay, Topeka, the best of the heartland. No. Let's try another one. Topeka, not as bad as you think. The last one they came up with was, Topeka, you won't get a lot of unwanted relatives visiting you. But, no, so I love these lists. You can see it later. You're marketing your city. You're marketing your downtown core. You're marketing your partnerships. You know, it's getting people to talk and to work together to create partnerships. That's how the business world is changing. It used to be everybody was doing it by themselves. And now everybody realizes, not everybody realizes, but that they need to work together, they're working as a team. Isn't that your challenge? Yes. Get everyone to realize they're working as a team. There is a fabulous book. I was told about it when I was working down in Puerto Rico last, and it is called On Innovation. And On Innovation is by Terry Jones. Terry Jones is the founder of Travelocity, and he is now the chairman of Kayak. He was the one that ran the Sabre computer system for American Airlines, which is the travel industry computer system, Sabre. He has come up with a book. It is easy to read. I don't know how thick it is because I've got it on my Kindle. Easy to read, and every chapter is only 2 to 3 pages. But what it is, every chapter is about a company, a business that innovated and succeeded, or a company, business that didn't innovate and lost out. But it's a fascinating book. I'm reading it again for the second time. But it's called Innovation by Terry Jones. So you may want to pick it up, because it's definitely worth reading. It gets you to take off your blinders, that's for sure, and to pay attention to these businesses and their very, very simple concepts that were never done that should have been. But it explains how the business world is changing today and how fast somebody can go under today. You know, you talk about, you mentioned competition over here, you look at the marketplace, it's oversaturated, you look at, because of the competition, somebody can be overrun immediately and be gone. You had mentioned like the little coffee store where they wore lingerie. Okay, gone, you know, you forget about it. So pay attention to what other businesses are doing. Don't think like the young lady that had the apparel store, women's apparel store. They didn't care about what Starbucks is doing because she doesn't drink coffee. You have to be open to all new ideas. Take off those blinders. Lansing, Michigan, the CVB came up with a program and it's called Certified Tourism Ambassadors. They've taken a training program, they've created a training program, all the hotels in the area, all the taxi cabs, all the retail businesses, so that when somebody comes into town, they are trained so that the training is consistent, the service is consistent, the experience is consistent, and these people know what is going on in Lansing, Michigan. So, you know, you may want to combine something like that with your downtown partnership program.
My question is, how do we get people thinking about working together? And how do we as practitioners build those partnerships and open, you know, the door for that visioning?
Well, all right, you look at yesterday. How many actual retailers were here yesterday?
Not enough.
Not enough. You're an exception. Thank you. Not enough. And that's it. I mean, because somebody asked me,
You know,
Yes.
there's something that's said in business that just because competition is not always bad, because if there's 2 stores that offer kind of the same thing, you're going to attract more people than one store here and one store over there. Well, I have a question. I'm trying to, in my business, I'm trying to attract young people. We're wanting to do a promotion.
What type of business is it again?
I own Rural Norman Cosmetics.
Okay.
And Rural Norman Cosmetics has always been thought of as the old ladies.
And it really,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's too heavy. It's too heavy.
We've come out, we have 15 types of foundation, my dear. You will find something for your granddaughter there, believe me.
She wouldn't shop there.
I know, well, that's the
That's
problem,
it.
okay? So here's my idea. We want to advertise somewhere. Where do we advertise for the young people? They don't get the printed newspaper
Online.
online.
You
but
gotta
where?
give them alerts and everything else.
Through what media?
Instagram. Mhm. It's going to be the best media for you.
What else, Topher?
What?
What else?
You see, right, you need to sit down with somebody who's young, who knows this.
Facebook?
Huh?
Facebook is dying.
Yeah, Facebook is dying, unfortunately.
Well, I just don't know.
No, see, and that's why, I mean, what I would do if I were you, talk about focus groups, I would then gather together, go to the high school, see if you could gather together a focus group, and to ask them. Because you're not going to be able to do it by yourself because you're, I was going to say older.
She was gonna be
I wasn't sure how to word it. But no, I think that's the key today. Because they do everything on everything on the phone.
Online, yeah.
Everything. And I was on a plane flying into Singapore, and I was sitting there, when we started talking, I don't talk to anybody unless we start to land, because now I have to do my own thing. I mean, somebody will talk on a plane,
Just tell them you'll sell life insurance.
that's what I was told when I first started this business. But no, when people talk on a plane, they tell their life story to people that they'll never see again. Who cares, you know? I mean, I'd rather read and do my own thing. In fact, I just found out something when I was flying last week into Seattle, is I use a Kindle when I fly. And the gal next to me, I did it white background, black letters. But that was the only way it came, I don't know. Woman next to me, she had black with white letters. And I said, how'd you do that? She goes, what's right on the bottom? I never looked. And it's so much easier to read at night. It's unbelievable. Much easier to read. But, so I was on the plane, flying into Singapore, and started talking to this woman next to me as we were landing. And she sold, she was with some cosmetic company. It was a startup cosmetic company. And she said, we're going, and it was a franchise, so very much like Rural Norman. And she said, I'm going into Singapore. She said, I'm going to do seminars and try and, find some franchisees to take on this line. And I said, you're going to the wrong country. She says, what do you mean I'm going to the wrong country? She says, I said, Singaporeans don't wear makeup. I said, you need to go to India. You need to go to Dubai. That's where you need to go. And she had not a clue. And I'm thinking, these companies need to do their research ahead of time. But no, with you, I would suggest definitely, some sort of a focus group.
Okay.
And is there a coffee shop in town you could invite people to work with a teacher at the?
Go to a brewery.
Well, you know what? That's not a bad idea.
That's
That is-
where all the young people hang out,
That's not a bad idea.
You could probably get a marketing class at the university to do it for you.
Oh, for free?
Well, probably they do have some focus group classes, yeah.
Do they? Oh, okay.
I don't know, sometimes they charge like $300 or something like that.
Yeah,
Cheap.
one for 500, I think.
Yeah, but see, that's what I would do. Okay. Also, yesterday I mentioned how important it was to give your customers all of your information. And it doesn't make any difference what type of business you're in at all. But I was working in Louisville, Kentucky, and I was working with the shopping center. It was a strip center. And you had everything from a drive-through liquor store to a pet store to a candles and more little gift store, the toy box and everything else. They have drive-through liquor stores in Wyoming too. And guess where the liquor stores are in New Hampshire? Anybody know? Oh, now you should know that. Oh, where are the liquor stores in New Hampshire? Do you know?
On the state line.
They're on the freeway. On the freeway, right in the middle, on the island in the
As
middle
a
of the
Vermonter,
freeway.
you drive across
You go through
Huh?
the river into New Hampshire, and we'll go buy your liquor and go to like chain stores.
Oh, by the way, they're closed on Sundays.
Exactly.
But in the middle of the freeway. So I'm working with this group. What I did is I went and I secret shopped all of the stores first. Then I did a program for them, and then I sat down with each one of them and spent a couple of hours with them. Want to know about their business, how they got into that category, you know, where they started going, what they do marketing-wise, and so on. And then, since it was a strip center, we walked into their stores that we were a customer. Well, I'm walking in with Mary from the hair review, sorry, the hair review, and we're coming in and it's dusk. And we're walking from the parking lot up to the front of her store, and she goes, oh, it looks awful. She goes, oh my gosh, that looks so awful. I always come in the back door. And she's got Christmas lights up, and it's June, but they're not lit. We walk in, there's a makeup case in the waiting area, and I said, oh, you do makeup? She goes, well, we haven't done it for 4 years, she said, but we use it to store our Christmas decorations in. I mean, and it got worse from there. She had flower arrangements that her mother had made for her when she opened 20 years ago. This is a hair salon. And they did everything from manicures, pedicures, hair color, cuts, massaging, waxing, everything. And I said, if I were to walk in as a new customer, how would I even know what you did? She goes, oh, everybody knows what we do. I said, no, they don't. I said, I want you to go to the next town. And I said, I want you to gather from all of the salons. I said, don't go here because they know you're here. Go to the next town, all the salons. I want you to grab their little menu of services. I want you to throw them all out. I want you to get your highlighting pen and highlight, whether it's the service you like, the pricing, whatever else, and I want you to create your own little menu of services. Then I want you to get the sign man to come behind the appointment desk. I want him to put the hair review on the wall, and a bulletized form lists what your services are. I went back 4 months later to work with this group again, and she was so excited to show me the little menu of services she had done, and her wall. She now got a real funky little lamp that hung over her appointment desk. You know, cleaned, got rid of, you know, the old makeup station, and it looked fabulous. She was so excited to tell me that her sales had quadrupled because now her customers knew what she did. I was in Texas, and I was in a lovely, lovely salon. And I walked through the door, and there was a big round antique table that was ordered with fresh flowers on it. I said, oh, beautiful. And I was standing there waiting for the owner to come out and meet with me. And on the table, there was a little lucite holder with American Express applications in it. And I said to her, I said, when she came out, what is this for? She goes, oh, she said, American Express told me that for every application that's approved, I get a check for $3. I said, okay. I said, how many $3 checks have you gotten? She said, well, I haven't gotten any yet, but I will. And I said, get rid of the American Express applications. They have enough money. Keep the lucite holder. Make your own little menu of services and put it in it. She has, and I'm successful. So you got to tell your customers what you do as well. I'm sure you have brochures that tell the downtown district and for the foundation and everything.
We do. We need to bring it all together still.
Okay, well, another problem, sorry, I cannot see my clock in this lighting at all. I've got a few more minutes. Yesterday and today, have I made you think about anything?
Yeah. It hasn't been a total waste of time on your part. No.
Oh, I thought you meant on your part.
No. You're in western Montana. Keep that in mind.
Although we're not sure what that really means.
Yeah. So we're pretty laid back.
Well, the first time I was in Manila to speak, and it was for ICS, the International Council of Shopping Centers. No, I did not know the Malaysian culture. And I'm not Malaysian, Philippine culture, excuse me, I was Malaysian, Philippines, did not know the Philippine culture. And they will come to a seminar, it was round tables like this. They will listen intently, they will make notes, but you can't get any customer involvement because in their culture, they won't talk back to you. That's considered rude. They'll ask you questions at the end, but never during it. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is a tough group, my goodness, until I found that out. So yeah, it's getting to know your customer. Exactly. Did you have something to say? No, I was thinking you did.
I was just going to say that I
Oh,
think, well, I was just going to make a comment that I think that one of the most valuable things has been looking at it, you know, from a business perspective, and then also from the perspective of our organization, the downtown partnership, of making sure that the work that we're doing is strategic and reflective of what people in school want. I think that a lot of the time, especially in Montana, we have a tendency to say, well, we've always kind of done it that way, and so we're going to continue to do it that way. And that is not...
It doesn't work anymore.
It doesn't work.
No, no, not at all. And unfortunately, too many businesses say that as well. You know, but what is it? It's the older person. It's not the young person who's coming in with the new ideas. And that's why I suggest obviously the focus group to you. Because, I know what my granddaughter likes to wear for makeup, and she wears a lot of makeup. I mean, they've got all the cat eyes now and everything else. But it's a 19-year-old, and she wanted to go into being a makeup artist. So, but that's the group you need to get. Yesterday I used the example about the hotel catering to the teenager. Look at the teenager. That's their next customer that's coming up the scale. So, one thing else in business today, because the way business is changing, is to follow up with the customer, to thank customers. I was in Covina recently, and a woman gave me, she says, I want to give you my business card. She said, I'm an accountant. She said, with everything you can do online, my business is really tanking. She said, I need some help. So she said, 2 days I had nothing to do. So I sat down and I wrote thank you notes to all my past clients. And she said, and sent those out. And I was hoping I'd maybe get a response. I included my business card. And she said, they were handwritten notes. And she said, a few days later, I was in the bank, and the bank manager of the bank said, Sue, come on over. She says, you know what, you sent me that little note the other day, and I had your business card on my desk, and you will be getting 3 new customers because I recommended you. So that's what it takes as well. When it comes to advertising today, everything is the internet, except there are companies that still send out direct mail pieces. All right. These are both for the same service, same company. I mean, same, type of company. Which one would you look at? This one. Sure. This one. They're both for dentists. But look at the difference. So it's simplicity as well. Well, 4 years ago I was arrested. And I'll tell you, Linda, you didn't know that. Otherwise you wouldn't have brought me here, and you didn't know that. Otherwise you wouldn't have treated me so well.
For non-computer.
For speeding.
Oh, for speeding. Oh.
I was driving from the Outer Banks of North Carolina to Norfolk Airport. And I was driving through a lovely little town of Currituck. Gorgeous lighthouse there, it's beautiful. And I was going just a little too fast. It was one of those speed trap towns. And it was a glorious day, and I was busy changing the radio station, not paying attention, and all of a sudden I see the lights behind me and went. Officer asked for my driver's license, and he says, it says here you live in California. I said, yes, sir, I do. He said, are you sure you live in California? He was giving me a way out, which I didn't realize. He said, I need to arrest you then because you live in California. I said, because I live in California? He goes, yes. He said, you need to sit in front of the magistrate. I said, oh, I'm so sorry, I've got to catch a flight. He goes, Missy, I'm arresting you. So I'm sitting there in front of the magistrate, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? First of all, I look around for the candid camera, I couldn't find one. And the magistrate wanted $300 in cash, which I didn't have. The bail bondsman's fishing, this is rural North Carolina, and they don't take credit cards. Thinking, okay.
But then I noticed that there were pictures of all of his grandchildren behind him. And I said, oh, are those your grandchildren? They are gorgeous. And I said, in fact, I'm my grandma. I'm on my way home to babysit. I've got to get out of here. Well, now he's got his wallet out showing me additional soccer pictures and everything else. Also looking to see how much money he has if he can help me out. Only in North Carolina, right? So we didn't have enough money, put his job on the line. It's not on my record because I was driving a rental car, which is foreign equipment to me. But the point of the story is, I had to figure out what was going to push his button. And that's what you need to do with your customers. What is it going to take to push their button? Thank you very, very much.